Phone reps of Reddit. What is the best thing anyone said while they thought they were on hold? I was working as a tier 2 and often took escalations. Mad customers. When I approached and asked the rep what was going on, he simply said she's an old bee. His headset was not muted and I froze when she says I heard that. While taking an escalation, the customer yelled into the phone, probably as loud as he could as he was very angry. I'm a freaking heart patient. Do as you're told. I had to mute the call because I was laughing so hard. I had an older gentleman say I'm on the phone with a nice young gentleman. He is going to save me money on my life insurance. Presumably this was to his wife. I was trying to upgrade his TV and internet package, not his life insurance. So when I came back to the phone, I'll let him know this was not life insurance. He would just be getting a landline from us instead of his old company. He didn't like that so much as the insurance thing. Old people are either the most lovely people ever or the worst people ever. I put a policeman on hold once. He knew he was on hold, but listening back to the call afterwards, he was discussing the merits of the vending machine and how wagon wheels, a biscuit covered in marshmallow and chocolate, had got smaller over the years and so had curly whirlies, all while they were booking in a guy they had just arrested. I think the chap I was listening to made someone go to the vending machine to get a wagon wheel to measure it, not that he would have had one from the 1980s to compare it to. The wagon wheel thing is true. My aunt used to be able to fit an entire one in her mouth as her party piece. Now she complains it's not even a challenge. Sorry, the situation isn't exactly as the title asks, but reading these stories reminded me of a funny thing that would happen every month or so at this massive warehouse I worked in. The warehouse was ridiculous. Over 500,000 square feet of space, 50 plus guys picking orders, lots of traffic. There were phones at the ends of the aisles, primarily for calling in injuries or paging maintenance guys, etc. The phones could be used to page the entire building, and it was impossible to know which phone was making the announcement. Every now and then, you'd hear the beep of the PA coming on, then a minute or so of P being played off someone's iPod. I remember another time when some of the dickhead CEOs were doing a walkthrough, someone put on the Imperial March. The scene you described sounds freaking hilarious. I imagine a bunch of guys just running around like Monsters Inc. style, doing various tasks that look like nothing if you followed them long enough and constantly trying to one up the best thing you can, speakerphone in, since anonymity is on your side. Not even on mute. The first thing the customer said after my intro was, "Want to hear a dirty joke? How do you find the blind guy at a nude beach? It's not hard, sir. How can I help you with your office supply question?" I have never heard that joke. I will use that one sometime, especially when I have office supply questions. Working tech support for a major multinational investment bank. There was an email outage the real techs were working on. The caller, who was British, for the record, was very polite when I explained the situation and thought he'd hung up before turning to his co-worker and saying, "Fricking C, don't know what's wrong." Who was British, for the record. This is an important piece of information. In Great Britain, the phrase fricking C is a term of endearment. I work for a company that registers domain names. Normally changing information on the account is pretty simple with account passwords and such, but if you claim that you forgot all your crap, we resort to scanned photo IDs and paper bills. A guy calls in telling us that he had faxed info for a rather valuable domain name. I put him on mute as to get my super to check the fax machine so I can continue to process him, and he starts telling someone else in the room his boss will pay for firing him. I tell the guy we need to call him back and contact the company in question, talk to the boss and sort everything out. TLDR. Guy tried to hijack valuable domain name, brags to accomplice while on mute, blows operation, possible jail time too, from what I have heard from legal. Makes me wonder what domain that was. Not entirely related, but I work for AT&T. A woman called in asking why is my bill $3,000. I went into her bill and she had $2,800 in BBWP subscriptions on her husband's line. I explained it to her and which line it was on, and proceeded to listen to her marriage fail. Whoa, I don't have anything against P, but I do have something against blowing almost $3K on it. I'm a little late to the fun and this isn't quite what was asked, but I once dropped the F-bomb on a call thinking it was muted when I worked internet tech support. I couldn't for the life of me figure out the issue. Don't actually remember what it was, just remember it was one of those this makes no sense moments. I muted the guy for a second and out loud said what the frick. Turns out I hadn't actually muted him. His response was tell me about it haha. This has actually happened to me while on the phone with a representative working on an issue for me. It's actually refreshing to hear that kind of thing. At least to me it is, because it shows that I'm not an idiot who is incapable of resolving my own issues, and it's nice to hear real emotion from you call center people. I work for Nintendo tech support. Put a bro dude on hold while looking up his serial no for his Wii. He nonchalantly says to his GF this Wii remote is rigged babe, let me play tennis with your over is great call. The sad part is that I'm sure there is a program specifically designed to control the vibration function on the Wii remote. Just hook it up via Bluetooth and buzz away. Not a phone rep, but a customer guilty of this. I was on the phone with my cable company and was sure the voice I was talking to was pre-recorded. Only had yes/no answers to give up until that point. The voice said please hold while I access your account or something like that. Since I was on hold with a potential robot, I was laughing with my roommate about how weird this pre-recording's voice sounded. Eventually he was all sorry. I'm a real person and I was mortified. I told him I was sorry, I thought he was a weird sounding robot. He said it was okay. He sometimes pretends to be a robot because his job is boring and he's tired and it's the end of the day. I complimented him on his robot skills. I was so thankful he had a sense of humor, and I felt awful for some time after that. Plot twist. He was a robot but didn't know it. Sometimes if I'm on a call with a machine I'll ask if androids dream of electric sheep. Great book. Read it. I pray that one day one of them says yes. I work for a pharmacy company that supplies medication to nursing homes. I had a nurse explicitly describe having sexual relations with another nurse, presumably both female from the names, in their van for the nursing facility. They presumed I did not speak Tagalog. They were wrong. Please tell me you said goodbye in Tagalog. When I was still in college, I worked for my school calling alumni for donations. I had a guy get really angry at me one time and asked to talk to my supervisor. So I put him on hold shortly and then transferred it to my manager's office, where he put it on speaker for us. We took him off hold to find him in the middle of a terrible, anti-Semitic rant that went on for at least 10 minutes about how the Jews had taken over the school and were using it as a front to fundraise for the Israeli lobby in Congress, and how we were all being brainwashed into being Zionists. Dang, that's an elaborate conspiracy theory. I had an older lady totally forget that I was on the phone at all while I was remotely resetting her cable box. I used to just tell them I'm going to step away from my desk for a drink of water while the box resets, since it takes about 5 minutes to do anything. Even though sometimes I'd just sit there on mute until I got a response back from the cable box again. She started having a conversation with her husband and asked what he wanted on his sandwich. She took the phone with her into the kitchen, started making a sandwich, and left the phone in the kitchen, I guess. I tried calling out her name, but she must not have had me on speakerphone, so she just started arguing with her husband, saying you told me you wanted mayonnaise on your sandwich. They argued for a bit, and she made him a new sandwich without mayonnaise. This seemed to satisfy him, and the arguing stopped, but she never came back to the phone. I tried calling her back, but I guess it was an older phone that didn't automatically disconnect the line when one party hangs up, so I got a busy signal. Or, a darker possibility, she put mayonnaise on his sandwich one too many times. I always act like I don't think they can hear me. Then I say flattering things about the person I'm speaking to and how I am sure they can help me after dealing with the last several idiots. Half the time I'm sure they can't hear me, but the other half, I get much better service when the person comes back. Brilliant. If they do hear you, they will feel extra compelled not to let you down, so your problem might get fixed faster or maybe even a discount on your bill. You are a genius. I often hear the kids of customers that work from home getting into all sorts of mischief. It's usually the lack of the child being present that makes the customer worried, and they go on to discover the huge mess the kid made in the other room. Agreed, if it's quiet something's up. Where I work, we use a computer-based phone system called Bria. For some reason, placing people on hold is fricked up, so instead of hold we just mute our end of the line and we can hear the customer. I muted one guy once and he starts yelling AW crap we got them cookies? Check the expiration date on them cookies. AW crap day good? Yo bring dem cookies right her son. I was dying from laughing, doubled over my desk. My co-workers thought I was nuts. This reminds me of Get the Water N. Worked phones for low-level tech support at my university while in college, mostly helping people set up emails and making tickets for faculty staff. I loved the mute button more than the hold button, so I heard a lot of interesting conversations. For those who don't know, the hold button played music, the mute button just muted my mic, and I could still hear everything on the other end. The faculty and staff would be pretty boring, they were still in an office. Mostly lunch plans and conversations that sounded like office gossip that I wasn't interested in. But the students at home, especially new students setting up their accounts for the first time, a lot of times with their parents. Random arguments about whether or not they were doing the right thing by calling. You'd be surprised how many people get anxious about calling for help. The two that stick out the most. The son calls to get help setting up his account before he comes for orientation. Mom and son argue while they are on hold about whether or not a degree in video game design is a useful path and how he is wasting his life and money. That was the awkwardest conversation I've ever interrupted. The girl who was in my statistics class and sat 2 rows in front of me who, when on hold, decided to bust out her Elvis impersonation. Not once, not twice, but all 3 times that I put her on hold. I was trying to come up with an excuse to put her on hold a 4th time. Just for my own amusement, but I couldn't think on my feet fast enough. Please tell me you ended the call with an Elvis like thank you very much. I work stock and customer service for tech support. Now, this wasn't a customer, but we had a district call with all of our employees on it, and one of the guys forgot to put his phone on mute and started cussing about his wife, calling her a BAMDW, and said, "Who the frick she think I am? Obama? I can't support her lazy butt not working." And then he went on to talk crap about our DM, who was on the call, at which point she piped in, "Do you guys know your phone's not muted?" Guy went silent and we never heard from him again. At another point in my career I put a gentleman on hold while I checked to see if we had a battery for his phone we could send him. His buddy could be heard in the background. All they both talked about was my accent and what I would sound like with his dong in my mouth. I handed the phone off to a male employee at that point. I was done. Nope. New up. So the male employee got on the line with his deep Charo Mexicano accent and told the guy we had one and he'd have to pay by CC. Guy asked what happened to me. He said I didn't like the prospect of foreign objects in my mouth. Dude hung up and never called again. Guy and his wife asks him if he has a pen. Guy says, in the most excitable voice I've ever heard from a full-grown man, "No, but I have a crayon and a wall. Ha 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 ha." I'm glad to hear Harold is doing well after he grew up. Customer must have been on a headset, had the guy on mute, heard a door open, creak, heard his footsteps begin to echo more than they had before the door opened. I began to think no, this couldn't be, heard him grunt, then heard the stream into the toilet, then the flush. At that point, I put my headset on my desk and my manager couldn't get me to stop laughing. Had to have another tech finish the call with him because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do anything but laugh. Till being on mute doesn't matter. Also, I'm definitely guilty of this one on multiple occasions. I've taken a dump while on mute before. I had no idea you could hear me. Sorry. Late to party, but best story I was ever part of, working tech support. Neighbor rep has long call with bitchy customer, over 2 hours. Rep puts customer on mute, misses mute button, and under his breath sighs, "Oh just frick off." Customer hears "Excuse me" without missing a beat. The rep says, "Did you hear that too, sir? I think our lines have been crossed. Please hold while I reconnect us." One of the best saves I've ever witnessed. I once had a policeman on mute while doing a rate plan analysis for his account. He was apparently on duty, which I didn't realize until I heard sirens. Then the following conversation. "Cop, stop the car. Stop the car." Then a female's voice. Sounding completely wasted. You want me to stop? Cop, yes. I told you to stop. Drunk woman. Okay. What's going on? Cop, license and registration please. Drunk woman. Fumbling noises. Here you go. Cop, what is this? I need your driver's license. Drunk woman. You need what? Cop, your driver's license. Drunk woman. You mean something with my picture on it? Unfortunately the cop hung up about this time. I really wanted to continue to listen. It was my first day as a loan officer and I wasn't able to get this public school teacher pre-qualified for a loan. She had millions in assets according to her, but her bank balance showed a negative amount. She went on and claimed she patented reverse osmosis, designed buildings in Dubai, and Dr. Pepper was her idea, but it is stolen from her. She wasn't done there. She could buy and sell my foreign butt if she wanted him American. To top it off, she kept calling and harassing me after the initial call with lines like, "Just because I got bad credit y'all won't give me a motherfucking loan? Just because I ain't got money you're going to deny me? I will have your butt, Kasim. My name is nothing like Kasim. Princess Diana's assistant was my friend and she will give me your job." Yep, she was a public school teacher. She deserves to be institutionalized. Don't lie to us, Kasim. We know you just didn't want to help her because she ain't got no money. I used to work in the call center for a hospital network. One time a guy called because he wanted his girlfriend to come in for a pregnancy test. This was a pretty normal phone call, but the particular location he wanted to go to had some goofy Medicaid restriction because they had a new nurse practitioner. I needed to ask one of my co-workers if I could schedule her for an appointment, but since it was only going to take a second, I just put the phone on mute instead of putting it on hold. That's when I heard the man say, "Hey, the doctor's put me on hold. Come over here and suck a dong." The woman playfully responded, "Or, not while you're on the phone with the doctor. All I want is a little head. He ain't gonna know." Well, okay. And for the rest of the call he was very unfocused, and anytime he asked her a question her answer was garbled and short. It was a weird call. I've got more stories if there's interest. The 18th of February, 2001. I too worked that crappy job so many of you did as a beggar for alumni donations in my college my junior year. A number auto-dialed, and as the screen pops up with the info I ask for the gentleman of the house as his lovely wife had answered. As I am waiting, not technically on hold, I hear crying. Yes, adult man cries. The man gets on the phone and I start my spiel and I hear sniffles, and then do you know what just happened? How dare you call here at a time like this? I'm thinking, oh snap, was there an assassination? Did the Pope die? Nope. The man proceeds to tell me Dale Earnhardt just died in a race and only the devil would call and beg for money at a time like this. Yes, so the job states I'm not allowed to hang up on an alumni ever, for any reason. So I sit and listen to what seemed like a never-ending rant cry on the death of the intimidator, and this guy was angry at me for calling. After which he proceeds to hang up on me. You can possibly guess I went to college in NC. That lady needs to get her poop in a group. She was complaining to a friend about some problem she was having with one of my co-workers. I had never heard that phrase before. Made me chuckle. That's an awesome way to tell someone to get their crap together. Not said, but once when I remoted into a lady's PC the little search window in the top right of Firefox, and I still had writing in it because people forget that your last search stays up there. It read Wives of Alcoholics. I was made very sad. Just after Michael Jackson died, I was doing tech support and billing for Comcast TV. I preferred internet support, and this woman from Philadelphia called and being all pissed off because her cable was out. I checked into it, and there was an outage. We'd already become aware of it. According to her though, her cable was out because Comcast don't want black people to know Michael Jackson dead. I also had another old guy who went on at me for an hour about being in the Vietnam War. An hour. Our AHT was supposed to be around 7.5 minutes. He seemed like a very nice old guy and just needed someone to talk to. Turned out he was trying to gain my sympathy. After an hour of that he just suddenly goes, "I want a month of free service because my cable was out for a few hours yesterday." I told him it wasn't possible, but he could have a day credited back to his bill and he lost it. He screamed at me for another 20 minutes. I was quite happy that immediately following that call they asked me if I wanted to go back to internet repair. Comcast don't want black people to know Michael Jackson dead. It's going to be a while before I get tired of saying this out loud. Yeah, I'm on the phone with this guy. He is gonna try to put me on a plan for my credit card. Now go wash that pee like I told you to and I'll be in to eat it in a few minutes. He might have been at a Chinese food market. On the topic of call centers, whenever I speak to somebody in customer services at a big company, I'll often receive one of those rate your experience emails a couple of days later, where your opinion is sought on how helpful the attendant was, etc. I always like to write a paragraph slathered in praise in the comment section. The most politest, helpful person I have ever dealt with. Please promote her immediately. If he was a pancake, he would be a very nice pancake. Sublime service. Please treat him to a cookie or two and bill the amount to my debit card. Hopefully it raises a smile or two and the folks responsible get a hearty well done or a pat on the back from their managers. Lots of peeing. So much peeing. Also lots of drive-through orders. Screaming parents are another norm. The most troubling are when it's a soldier overseas calling and all you hear is a hurried, "Oh crap, I have to go," before the call cuts out. Those are usually the ones where I have to get up from my desk for a while afterward. TLDR. During a tech support call, I was responsible for making an older gentleman have a heart attack and had to call emergency services for him. Long read. Years ago, I was working in a call center as an advanced level technical support rep for a hard drive company. Older gentleman calls in and indicates that while his computer is recognizing his external hard drive, he called it his backup hard drive. He can't see any of his data on the drive. Shows as unformatted RAW. Over the course of an hour-long call, I have him run several utilities to test the drive and ask him several questions about usage and unplug behavior. Over this hour, he tells me that he's got irreplaceable pictures and movies, backup LOL, on this drive and becomes more and more agitated. I can hear the stress in his voice. I ultimately come to the conclusion that the partition on the drive was damaged, most likely due to improperly unplugging the drive without dismounting. The data is most likely intact but would need to be recovered by data recovery software company. Read $$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$ I have good news and bad news. The good news is that physically, there's nothing wrong with the drive and it can be made to work again. The bad news is that it looks like the partition on the drive is damaged and the data at this time is unreachable without using data recovery methods. His breathing immediately becomes labored and he says, "Oh my god, I can't believe this." And then he kept on repeating "oh my god" several times, the whole time moaning and breathing hard. I asked him if he was okay and he dropped the bomb of, "I think I'm having a heart attack." At this point I'm freaking out and get my manager's attention through IM and tell him that this guy's having a heart attack on the phone. I ask the customer if there's anyone with him and he says no. I then tell him to stay on the line and I will call emergency services for him. I jump over to a separate line and call 911. Tell them about the situation and give them the customer's information and address. I switch between both lines every 30 seconds or so until emergency responders arrive. Took about 11 minutes as the customer lived in a sparsely populated area of Connecticut. The customer was conscious the entire time and told me when the emergency responders arrived. I actually said good luck before I hung up with him. FML. Follow up. I called the customer a week later to check on his condition and he was doing fine and in fair health. I learned that this was his second heart attack. I talked with our customer service manager and we decided that we would pick up the tab for data recovery on his drive. Moral of the story: backup means copy in another location, not move to another location. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.